be December, but I still have a really wonderful garden tour for you guys. This is the garden home and garden business of my friend Kelly up in New Jersey. And Kelly and I became friends, gosh, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We met on Instagram, and it's one of those situations where a virtual friendship became a real friendship. And we've talked on the phone a number of different times. We've collaborated a number of times. She is one of the most talented gardeners I know. She puts my skills to shame. And in this video, she's going to give us a tour of her cut flower farm and some wonderful tips on saving seeds and some different ideas about where she feels like she maybe made some mistakes in her garden and how she's remedying that. You can see her absolutely gorgeous home. And most importantly, it will just expose you to Kelly and her partner in crime, Lucy. We've really become friends over the years, and so I'm happy to provide this gorgeous garden tour for you. On a personal note, Kelly, a few years ago when I realized just how beautiful her arrangements were, you can actually order cut flowers through her business at Cranberry Fields. She would send my mother cut flower bouquets for different holidays, for Christmas and for Mother's Day. And it's a wonderful memory that I always associate with you, Kelly. So thank you for taking good care of her while she was still alive. So Kelly, take it away and thank you. I wish you could be here joining Stuart and myself by the fire, but since you're not, I'll just send a hug your way. Take it away.
Hey Linda, I'm so excited about this video that we're doing together. For those of you that don't know, I met Linda through Instagram. I had reached out to her a few years ago and I was brand new, and I had actually made like a live video in one of my sunflower fields, and I was saying, oh, I'm trying to get the attention of this terrific gardener, Linda Vater. I hope she's watching this because I adore her channel and I hope she can give me some great tips. And in the middle of the video, she sends like a direct message through Insta and she's like, hey girl, how are you? And I literally almost had a nervous breakdown. So I reached out to her after the video and I was like, thank you so much for saying hi. And she gave me a whole bunch of terrific tips on how to get started. And I'm forever grateful for her. She was like the epitome of the person that's super successful, that reaches down and kind of helps the little guy kind of make their way. So I appreciate that, Linda. But I'm here with Lucy today, and I'd love to take all of our flower friends on a tour through my November secret garden and my November flower farm and show you some of my landscaping in November. And I want to give you guys some of my all-time favorite tips along the way. So I'm going to show you how to collect some flower seeds. I'm going to show you some of the landscaping in front of my house and some of the blunders that I've made and that I'm now fixing. And I want to give you some great tips on some of our hydrangeas and peonies. Come on, let's go. So this is our sunflower field now, and we just kind of plowed everything over, but I like to use my sunflower stems that are dried out for firewood kindling. So we'll kind of start our fires with these pieces that are very like dried out, and they make for super fire starters. So my celosia field is totally dormant also this time of year, but I want to show you something really cool. So this is what the plant looks like now, and we basically came in and we harvested most of the plant earlier in the season, and we harvested it more like in this stage where it wasn't quite so dried out, but yet it started to brown. And what we did was we cut them and we hung this flower upside down, and you can tell how beautiful celosia dries out. This plant has been hanging in my barn for about 4 weeks now, and it maintained a lot of its color. But what we did was we kind of took the celosia plant and we hung it over like a box, and we hung it over some paper bags, and we got these little tiny black seeds to pop out of it. Because each of these little black pepper flakes is actually going to be a celosia flower for next year, a celosia plant. So the easiest thing to do is to come into your gardens and kind of just bend them down, and you can give them a shake. And you could even hear them popping off the plant. So it's amazing to think, though, that each of these little tiny black flecks is going to be a celosia plant for next year. So celosia is one of those wonderful, like, cut and come again flowers. Like, if you keep kind of trimming it and deadheading it, it's going to come back all season long. And there's a lot of celosia plants that I've had that I actually got lazy and I didn't even deadhead them, and they continue to bloom for the entire spring, summer, and fall. So it's a really great, colorful plant to have in your garden. So I want to show you what my zinnias look like now, and I want to tell you how we harvest those. So they're right in back of me. Now, it's kind of hard to see these little arrowhead seeds, but basically if you pluck the seeds from the plant once it's kind of dried out and it's done blooming, you'll be able to see like little arrowheads, and each of those arrowhead seeds is going to wind up being a flower for next year. And so zinnias are a super fun flower to collect the seeds from, and they're also super easy to grow. So you're just going to put the seeds in your garden. You're going to bury them with about 1 inch or 2 of soil in spring. Once your soil kind of warms up, usually after Mother's Day is a great time to put these seeds in the ground. And then zinnias will also come back the entire spring, summer, fall, but zinnias do need to be deadheaded, because if you don't deadhead them, eventually the plant will stop blooming. So this is the front of my house, and I have a ton of ivy growing up the sides of it. And I love ivy because we use it in a lot of our bouquets. It's super long lasting, it has a great face life. And I have to say, this is actually a garden blunder that I'm showing you now. I didn't prune this back properly. I need to get to the ivy that's growing into my gutters right now. So that ivy is clogging up all the water that's supposed to run down the spouts, and it's going to cause a major issue. So we have to get rid of that ivy that's up there. But I want to show you something really cool about ivy. This time of year, it starts to go to seed. And there's little flower heads here that look amazing in flower arrangement. So it looks almost like something, almost like a Dr. Seuss kind of flower. It looks like something maybe from outer space, but these are really fun to use in flower arrangements. So ivy's a terrific plant to add to your landscaping. Just make sure that you stay on top of it and don't let it take over your house like I kind of did. I have a fountain in front of my house, and I wanted to keep the landscaping very kind of crisp and clean. It almost reminds me of like Linda's style of landscaping, where it's almost like you've got these tailored hedges and evergreens that come back every year. So I love these hedges because they're super, super easy to grow, and I come out here for coffee all the time. And I have to say that I love the sound of the fountain in the background. There's just something so soothing about having water as an element in your garden. So that's one of my favorite pieces that we have here. And I tried very hard to grow double knockout roses in these flower beds, and I've been very unsuccessful. And I think that has to do with the fact that I have a lot of shade that's being cast upon it by these beautiful birch trees that are here. So I've tried it for a number of years, and I just think that I'm fighting a losing battle. So I'm going to try to find a better plant that likes shade more than double knockout roses, which are like an outstanding rose to have in your garden if you need to choose one. They're a fabulous cut and coming in flower also, and they'll bloom for you all season. Just don't plant them in the shade like I did. This is what my secret garden looks like in fall, like just about before Thanksgiving. Lots of beautiful fall color. So I've got a giant limelight hydrangea right next to me, and this is a super easy hydrangea to grow. And these blooms come back year after year. It's the type of hydrangea that comes in on what's known as new growth. So you never have to worry about pruning it the wrong way. So the blooms that you're going to have on your limelight hydrangea get set in place in the spring of that same year. So you never have to worry about pruning it the wrong way. You never have to worry about winter zap. So this is a terrific flower to have, and it just gives you tons and tons and tons of gorgeous white blooms in spring and summer, and then those gorgeous white fluffy blooms turn kind of green and then like almost like a maroon tip. And so what I'm going to do as far as garden care for this plant right now is I basically am just going to cut off some of the big giant heads that are super heavy, because I don't want to have a lot of snow sitting on top of those giant fluffy heads and then cracking a whole bunch of the wood. And Linda, I know that you had a crazy ice storm by you. I saw the video that you made with Laura from Garden Answer, and it was such a great video. It's on YouTube. I'll put a link to that below. And I know that you had a lot of ice damage because all that heavy ice sat on a lot of the beautiful trees that you have in your front landscaping and your back landscaping, and I know it cracked a lot of branches and you had a lot of damage. And I have to give you kudos, because as I was watching your video, you're showing us like all this major damage that happened to your beautiful gardens, and there was no hand-wringing, there was no feeling sorry for yourself. You were just like, here's what happened, and here's how we're going to rebuild. So that was just amazing and inspirational to watch. These are my Annabelle hydrangeas, and I just kind of leave these gals in place. You can deadhead them. You can even prune them back, and you can cut them all the way back to like 18 inches if you want, and then you'll have beautiful giant hydrangea blooms on these hydrangeas. But keep in mind that those giant hydrangea heads are going to be super, super heavy and floppy. So what you might want to do is choose to not prune them at all, and you can just kind of cut off some of the spent flowers in spring. You can even just leave the spent flowers in place if you want, and then all the new growth is going to come in, and on those new growth will come your beautiful white blooms, and they're going to be a smaller size if you choose not to prune back your hydrangea. And then I've got some butterfly bushes that are going dormant. And I cut back a whole bunch of my peonies. You can tell what I usually do is I just cut them back down to about 1 inch. And then that's it. I remove everything. I have to do the same thing to these guys. I just didn't get to them yet. And this is a new hydrangea that I planted in the ground this year. It's looking a little scary now, but I'm not too worried because right now I think it's just trying to get established. So I'm not going to fret about it. I know I tucked him in nicely. I put some mulch around its base, and I gave him some great water, and I've been keeping up with the moisture. And at the same time, I'm not overwatering my hydrangea, because a lot of times people will overwater thinking that they need the flower to be soaked. So hydrangeas like to be moist, but they don't like to have soggy feet. Thank you so much for joining us in this video.
Well, hydrangeas might not like wet feet. Kelly, you and I don't like wet feet either. Now, true confessions, Kelly actually shot this for me back in November. It was just after the ice storm. It was just chaotic and kind of a mess around here. So Stuart and I are just now able to put this together. I hope you enjoyed it. Kelly is, like I said, a just fabulous gardener. And I hope it was kind of fun too to listen to her New Jersey accent and compare it to my Southern one. Kelly, love you, girl. Thank you and have a Merry Christmas.